The deadline to apply for federal assistance for the victims of Hurricane Helene has just passed, but a lot of applicants have or will soon be receiving their determination letters. Joining us with more on this next stage in the process is Nikki Gaskins Campbell, Media Relations Specialist for FEMA. Great to have you back.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
It's hard to believe that it's been 4 months since the declaration for Helene for victims here in South Carolina and elsewhere. So now we're starting into the next phase, which is people are receiving their determination letters. What does that mean exactly?
So since the very beginning, where there was a federal disaster declaration at the very end of September, so that allowed people to start applying for FEMA assistance. So these determination letters are ongoing. We've been sending them out since not long after the disaster declaration, and now with the deadline passed, we are still processing those applications, and people will continue to get determination letters. The main thing I want to make it clear is that if you get a determination letter and it says you're ineligible for disaster assistance, or perhaps you got funding but it wasn't to the amount that you wanted, you can still appeal that. So just know that a determination letter is not the end all be all. It is not the end of the line. We want you to read that determination letter carefully and just pay attention also to the date listed on that on the registration on the determination letter, because you have 60 days from the date listed on that determination letter to appeal it. So there is hope, but just make sure you read it carefully and then reach out to us with any questions.
Yeah, and not to delay, because I know sometimes when FEMA sets those deadlines to apply in the first place, those get extended out because a lot of people wait until the very last minute, or they don't even realize they haven't totally assessed what their needs are until that 11th hour. But once you receive that determination letter, make sure within those 2 months that you are responding and keeping the conversation going. What's the best way to do that?
So there's one of the main ways to do that is to give us a phone call. That's 1-800-621-3362. Again, 1-800-621-3362. In that determination letter, a lot of people we hear often ask us, why did I get denied? It's not necessarily a denial. Some people may get a not now response simply because we need to know if you have insurance. If you do have renter's insurance or homeowner's insurance, we're going to want to know what your insurance is going to cover, because by law we cannot duplicate insurance payments. So we need to see what your award amount is going to be. And also it's important to manage expectations and let people know that any of FEMA's assistance is not a substitute for your insurance. We cannot duplicate insurance payments by law. So that's why we will want to know what your insurance is going to cover. Another reason you may not be deemed eligible right then and there is because we obviously need to prove you are who you say you are. If you do own the primary residence, like if you're in a rental property or you're the primary homeowner, we're going to need to see some evidence of that, maybe with a deed, a mortgage document, property tax records,
utility bill.
Exactly, something that shows that you are in fact living in that primary residence.
Of course, naturally. Now, we suffered so much damage here between Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina because of Hurricane Helene. It decimated areas, and they're in the rebuilding process. What has FEMA provided so far to the victims? Because it's still ongoing. They're not done yet. So what has been provided?
Yeah, and so just to manage expectations, unfortunately, recovery is never a sprint. It is an ongoing process. It is a marathon. So even though this storm hit in late 2024, in September 2024, the recovery still is ongoing. And in some ways, to manage expectations, FEMA is a lot like a bank. When we go into these areas and we work closely with the state, which is leading recovery efforts, we are here in a support role. And we are trying to figure out who needs assistance, where do we need to go, and that assistance is in the form of grant money that can be used to help disaster survivors get back on their feet. It was never designed, however, to make someone whole. We are but one piece of the puzzle. We are not the entire piece. I also say that we are but one tool in the disaster survivors toolbox. It truly takes the state, the local officials, the nonprofits, houses of worship, all of us working together to help disaster survivors on their road to recovery. So we continue to provide grant money even after the South Carolina deadline to continue to help people recover from this storm.
And even the Small Business Administration, despite its name, they also provide those low interest loans to survivors, individuals. You don't necessarily have to have a small business, but you can also apply. That's not always something that everybody wants to do, is take out another loan, of course, but at least it is another option for certain survivors to dip into additional funds.
The SBA is such a huge federal partner of FEMA's. They play such a big role because we are typically focused on the short-term recovery. To help people get the jumpstart their recovery, where the SBA is focused on homeowners and renters too, not just businesses.
Sure.
They're focused on long-term recovery.
Indeed, and according to my notes here, it looks like $259 million so far put in the hands of survivors, and we're looking at about 233,000 households. So that's a lot of people being helped, more people being helped on the way. Nikki, thank you so much for sharing all this information. And again, the message is for everyone to be sure to respond to those appeal letters. Make sure that you can continue that conversation with the federal agency. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you for having me.
We're back after this.